We're continuing with segment 8 of 8 for chapter 4. It's the second part of the company description that we're using for Zap Electrical Services. So in paragraph 3, let's look at the first 3 sentences. As customer loyalty and referrals will be integral to our success. Our service people will be polite, professional, and helpful beyond the job we are hired to do. In addition to electrical tasks, we will lend customers a hand in small tasks around the house for the residential customers we serve at no charge to them. So this conveys a company culture of loyalty, politeness, professionalism, and helpfulness. Okay? So it says Zap will provide additional community value by lending a hand with small tasks at no charge. Okay? There's a reason I put this in here. There's a show that I watched. I can't remember the name of it. It might have even been the Undercover Boss one. And I think it was with Budget Blinds or something. But what they had was one of their franchisees was just phenomenally successful. And they were like, what is this guy doing that's different than everybody else? And here's what it was. Okay? Now, he knows that when he's putting up blinds for people, it usually requires him bringing a ladder and getting on a ladder and doing some stuff. And especially if people have 2-story windows and things like that. And he said a lot of the people that he goes and helps, they need other little stuff done around the house. Maybe they need a little piece of furniture moved, or maybe there's a ledge up higher that they've wanted to get dusted, but they didn't have a ladder to put up there, or they don't like getting on ladders. And what this installer would do is he would do the job that he was there to do, and then he would always ask the customers, hey, is there any little things around the house that you have been wanting to get done that we could help you out with? He said it often only took him 5, 10, or 15 minutes to do. And boy, oh boy, was there an unexpected, valued benefit that he was bringing to these customers that they were genuinely appreciative of, and they would give him referrals like a maniac. And think about it. It's not commonplace that when somebody does some blinds for their house or some window treatments, that they do every window in the house at one time. At times that happens, but not frequently. So they would end up getting more and more business out of this. So think about it, something that costs no additional out-of-pocket money. Yes, it does take a little bit of time, but he was usually only seeing 1, maybe 2 customers a day, and so it takes an extra 5 or 15 minutes. That is a phenomenal way to market your business. You're not even asking for more business. You're not handing out any literature. You're not paying for any advertising. It's just simply being a good person and helping somebody else out. And that made that guy the #1 franchisee nationwide. Wow. Okay, let's look at the last sentence of paragraph 3. Customer referral programs for new customers as well as appreciation discounts for existing customers will also be implemented. Okay? So this lets you know how the company wants to build on the existing relationships, and it is less expensive to get more business and referrals from an existing customer than it is to obtain a brand new customer. And this clearly conveys that Zap understands this, and it's just one of the basic rules of marketing. So let's look at paragraph 4, the first sentence. Zap will begin with 1 fully equipped service truck, 1 licensed electrician, and 1 helper. Okay, so there you go. There's what you know you've got to have to get the business going. So it lets you know from a staffing and equipment perspective how you're going to get off the ground. So later in the details, you would provide what a fully equipped truck means and costs. Okay, because depending what line of business you're in, the equipment can add up to some significant amounts. Maybe you're in a business that it doesn't. You can become a landscape contractor with a beat-up pickup truck and a shovel and a rake, and you're in the game. So you can get into it for a very low cost. That's not the case with all businesses. Let's look at the second sentence of paragraph 4. By the end of year 1, we will add a second truck with 1 additional licensed electrician. So there's the growth plan. So it gives the expected growth rate of the company. The additional details will be later in the plan to support this statement. And in the last 2 sentences, by the end of year 3, Zap will grow to a fleet of 5 trucks, 5 licensed electricians, and 2 helpers. The helpers will accompany the electricians on the jobs where their assistance is needed most. So you've got a very clear idea on how they intend on growing and at what growth rate. Okay? And then obviously in the numbers, you need to support how this is going to happen from an expense standpoint as well as a revenue standpoint. Okay, now let's look at paragraph 5. There's some real detail in here. So, and I'm also going to point out a distinction here, but what the sentence says is based upon 35 billable hours per week based upon 35 billable hours per week for 48 weeks per year at a rate of $85 per hour, our licensed electricians will generate $142,800 per electrician per year. Based upon 35 billable hours per week for 48 weeks of the year at a rate of $65 an hour, our helpers will generate $109,200 per helper per year. So look at the amount of detail in there about how they're going to make money. Now, if you noticed here, it's saying 35 billable hours per week. The worker is probably going to get paid for 40, 45, or 50, but what you're able to charge to the customer is 35. So that's why you notice here that says a rate of $85 per hour is what the customer is getting charged. That's not what the employee is getting paid. They're probably getting paid $25 to $35 per hour, maybe a little bit more, but it gives the spread to cover those hours that aren't billable, but the person needs to get paid for. Now, the 48 weeks per year, obviously there's 52 weeks in a calendar year, but it's typical that somebody gets 4 weeks off, 2 for sick, 2 for vacation, things like that. So you're only going to be generating revenue while the worker is there and able to generate the billable hours. So putting these types of details in there get investors and lenders to go, yeah, this person's paying attention. They know how the game of business works. Okay, so and just keep in mind your worker's likely to get paid for 40 to 50 hours a week, or if not, just state that. If it's going to be 40 hours, whatever it's going to be. When we had our accounting firm down in Florida, our employees worked 40 hours per week. We assumed that there was going to be 35 billable hours in that week, and if it was going to fall below 35, our employees were required to come let me know, because if we weren't going to hit our revenue projection, I needed to know that. It didn't mean something bad was happening. It was just I needed to be aware so we could plan accordingly. So let's look at sentences 3 and 4 in paragraph 5. In year 3, ZAP will be fully staffed and equipped. Based upon the numbers provided in our example, we will generate billable service revenue of $1,041,600. So look at that. In 3 years, they're up to $1 million company. Okay? So sentences 3 and 4 provide the revenue generated from the projections that were created in the previous sentence. Okay, so not too bad. Okay, and these are realistic numbers. This isn't fluff. Okay, one of the advantages you get with being an accountant and having an accounting business is you see the numbers of different businesses. You see what's realistic and what's reasonable. Something like this can happen. Okay, so let's look at sentences 5 and 6. Trip charges would be a flat fee of $65 per service call. The revenue generated from the trip charges is detailed in the financial projections. Now think about it. If you're a homeowner, and or even if you're not a homeowner, if you rent, and somebody comes to provide a service at your house, whether a plumber, electrician, whatever it is, they often charge a fee just to show up. Okay? That fee is what helps offset that travel time, the cost to the company of the travel time. So you've got to think through, is this going to be part of your business model? And if so, what does that look like? Is it one trip charge per day? Is it, how many customers do you see a day? If your visits to a customer are usually only an hour or two, it might be that you can do 3 trip charges a day. It might be only 1. You've got to figure this stuff out. Okay? And then you'll detail what the revenue would be from it. Now let's look at the last 2 sentences in paragraph 5. The revenue generated from the trip charges is detailed in the financial projections, and it is. You'll see this later. An additional area of revenue generation will be new and replacement parts, and these numbers are also included in the financial projections. Okay? So it is often the case that if somebody's providing parts, they're buying it, if they're buying the part at $10, they're probably selling it to the customer anywhere $12 to $20 or more, depending on the business that they're in and the cost of the parts and what's involved in obtaining those parts. Okay, but that's also a revenue generator for you as a business owner. Okay? And then you would put those revenue projections in the sales forecast. So paragraph 6, the first sentence, Having been a licensed electrician for 10 years in the York area and working by myself, I have learned the needs of the community and how to fairly price electrical services. So here he's conveying that he's got local experience and he understands the local market. Okay? And then the second and third sentence, the economy is still in recovery, and although, well, it's not the case anymore, the economy has recovered, okay, but just bear me out on this. The economy is still in recovery, and although finding qualified loyal employees is never easy, the current economy lends to their availability. ZAP will also implement a profit-sharing program to reward efficiency and foster employee retention. So this is indicating that ZAP knows that finding competent employees is not a simple matter, okay, and that they need to retain them, and they're going to use a profit-sharing program as a manner of retaining people. That can be a very effective way to do it. So not only do you have to know how to hire good people, you've got to know how to keep them. The last sentence of paragraph 6, our company will be organized as an LLC with one managing member, myself. I'll explain what a managing member is in later chapters, but this lets anybody that understands the different types of company entities that can be set up, they would understand what this means. And that's the conclusion of the example. So a couple last words here. Now, initially, you might not have the best goal list for your company or the best company description. That's okay. You got to start somewhere. So spend time thinking through it. Don't expect the first draft that you do to be your last draft. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? Or I mean, if you're that gifted of a writer, yahoo, fantastic for you. The business plan is a working document. That's okay. You can revisit it as many times as you need to. Just go back to the sections that you need to and update them. And then this is going to be the next chapter, chapter 5. We will get into the actual products and services, products or services that you will provide to your customers, and I will give you some templates for how to organize that because you've got to list it all. It's just part of the process with coming up with a good business plan.